The trial of Adolf Eichmann in Jerusalem was one of the most important episodes in the life of Hannah Arendt. It was in connection with this trial that she really clarified her thinking about what had happened to the Germans during the Third Reich, and it was in the book that she published, Eichmann in Jerusalem, that she first brought forth the concept of banal evil, which turned out to be much more controversial than she had expected. This is the way those themes are introduced in Stranger. Arendt's epiphany in Jerusalem was that the greatest crimes and most profound evil did not require hate or even malice as it is commonly understood. This is part of what she meant when she called the trial a long course in human wickedness that taught the lesson of the fearsome, word and thought-defying banality of evil. Eichmann was by all accounts a normal family man. The psychiatrist and clergyman who interviewed him in conjunction with the trial certified that he was normal in such things as his attitude toward his wife and children, parents, siblings, friends. He was not perverted, sadistic, or obsessed with dangerous urges to kill or insane hatreds. He was average, normal, not feeble-minded or indoctrinated. More normal, one physician concluded, than I am after having examined him. What most surprised Arendt at the trial was her sudden insight that Eichmann was not actually a Jew-hater. She noticed, however, that Eichmann was unable to articulate complex thoughts, reverting inevitably to stock phrases, slogans, and cliches, as if he had trouble finding words of his own. She thought this derived from the fact that he did not think very deeply or well, and certainly never from the perspective of the other, which is a necessary condition for being able to distinguish right from wrong. Eichmann pled not guilty in the sense of the indictment, and maintained that, with the killing of the Jews, I had nothing to do. I never killed a Jew, or a non-Jew for that matter. I never killed any human being. I never gave an order to kill. I just did not do it. Not only did he not personally have anything against the Jews, but Jewish relatives on his mother's side had always been good to him and to his family. He did not deny that he had aided and abetted the annihilation of the Jews, and even called this one of the greatest crimes in the history of humanity. But he did deny that he had any animus against Jews, or harbored hatred in his soul. He was not, he said, an innerer Schweinhund, which Arendt translated for her readers as a dirty bastard in the depths of his heart. Perhaps this is so. Certainly Arendt thought he gave the impression of a man more likely to be made ill by the sight of blood and gore than of one lusting for it. But she also recognized that all such distinctions were inconsequential. Eichmann knew from his own direct observations that genocide was being undertaken, and he understood the centrality of his own role and position. In criminal law, such knowledge is regarded as the moral equivalent of intention and forms a sound basis for punishment. The man who organizes mass murder from his desk is just as culpable as the commandant who operates the gas chamber, though they may be different types of men. Arendt did not absolve Eichmann of guilt, nor oppose his execution, but thought the prosecution case against him was misleading insofar as it portrayed him as a monster, and exaggerated in its assessment of his individual responsibility for the totality of harm done to the Jewish people. This offended her, and detracted from the important task of reconstructing what had happened, and how it had happened. A focus on the behavior of the offender, rather than the suffering of the victims, would have shown Eichmann, more frighteningly, to have been an ordinary man, behaving with ordinary motives in a culture that produced an abundance of murderers and accomplices. Arendt's understanding of banal evil was a radical revision of her thinking immediately after the war, when Karl Jaspers had to remind her not to fall into the trap of thinking of Nazi criminality as demonic or larger than life. It had broad implications. The phrase banality of evil is not merely, as some critics suggested, a catchphrase, but rather an acute insight that evil is neither, as Kant thought, a wholly independent phenomenon with its own independent roots, nor the total absence of good. Evil coexists with good, and individuals engaged in evil may believe in the moment that their behavior is justified and morally appropriate. Thus it was not only Eichmann's evil that Arendt perceived as banal, but also the complicity of the Jewish leadership and the passivity of the rest of the world in the face of the horror. The judgment of the court in Jerusalem was that Eichmann had, quote, closed his ears to conscience, unquote. But Arendt did not think this was the case. It was not that Eichmann did not hear the call of conscience, but that his conscience spoke with the voice of respectable society. And this is the voice that seduces men to evil. When the devil comes to negotiate for our souls, he brings attractive gifts and rationalizations, and is more likely to be wearing a business suit or uniform of national pride than a fiery cape.